If you're irritated with your spouse, ooh, harder, much harder to daydream about somebody that you're feeling a little grumpy with. Hi, if we've never met before, my name is Tiffany. I'm a perinatal and Christian psychotherapist. Today we're going to chat all about how to uplift your husband. And the best part is, you don't even have to be really happy with your husband to apply these. You could be in the middle of the big fight in your marriage. You could be just irritated as all heck with him, and you can still work on these habits. So before we get into that, I want to chat about something that I noticed when I started providing marriage counseling to couples. The couples would come in and they would sit with me, and I noticed that they had the topics that we were going to talk about, they had already talked about with a loved one or a friend. And it's great that they felt like they had somebody to go to. However, I want to warn you. I want to give you a little word to the wise. That's not always the best idea. And I'm not saying that your loved ones don't love you to death and that they don't want your marriage just to thrive and be happy. But oftentimes, when people come to us for things, we unknowingly have biases or worldviews that are gonna influence the way that we give our advice, right? So if someone's coming to, and let's just use a really big topic. Let's say someone's coming to and they're having, there's some adultery in their marriage, and you've experienced that before. Your heart is maybe jaded, maybe not. Maybe it's jaded, and maybe you're gonna have a hard time loving their marriage or giving them advice that's sound. Now, I know that's a really big, heavy topic to use as an example, but you can see how the person their heart might be in a different posture about it. It might make them really, really mad at your spouse, or it might make them feel like maybe they think you can get over it really easily because they did. Things like that. They might just have like a very jaded view. And so I just want you to be cautious with that. It's not that they can't give good advice. An example I'll use with my couples is the mantra, what I want them to remember is go to somebody who adores their spouse. I'm not saying that's perfect advice, but if you can really try and get to know couples where you can tell that they adore each other, doesn't mean anybody's perfect. There is no perfect marriage. Because there isn't a sinless person on the planet, right? We're all just sinners married to each other. But try and find people who adore each other, because all of a sudden, when they're giving you advice, they're thinking about a husband that they adore. And so then they might be more inclined to give your spouse a lot more grace, right? Or call you higher and say, hey, like, oh, I'm feeling bad for your husband. It sounds like, maybe you could work on this or that. So take that to heart. Try and find somebody. If you're gonna go to somebody for advice in your life, try and pick somebody that adores their husband. Now, if you're seeing a therapist, you're not gonna know that, right? You're not, and nor should you know it's irrelevant really in therapy if they adore their spouse or not, because they're trained to be unbiased. That's a huge part of a graduate degree in counseling and therapy is learning how to be unbiased in those moments and set your worldviews aside to be able to help people in a way that's going to serve them, not our own agendas. Okay? Now, before we dive any more into it, if you're experiencing any form of abuse in your marriage, this video is not for you. Marriage counseling is not for you if you are experiencing abuse. So I just ask that you take care of yourself. If you're feeling really overwhelmed, you don't know where to start with that, I would go right to your pastor, and your pastor can help you in a really local and personalized way. Also, this video is not therapy. This does not equal marriage counseling, watching this video, nor am I providing you with any counseling or giving you advice in your life. You need to be making your own decisions for your own life, okay? So the next 7 habits, I partake in these on a daily or weekly basis. I work really, really hard to adore my husband, Grant. He's an incredible husband, but I also know that the Lord called me to be his helper, and I really want to do that job well. Side note, my daughter Blake is here sleeping on me, so she's gonna stir occasionally, and I'll try not to get too distracted by that. The first one is a fun one. I love this one. I tell all my friends about it. It comes up in all of my counseling sessions, and that is to daydream about him. Now, that's gonna sound a little silly maybe at first, and if you're irritated with your spouse, much harder to daydream about somebody that you're feeling a little grumpy with. But here's an example. When during the day, I try and remember like once a day to just think about him a little bit. Honestly, it takes 10 seconds, 30 seconds, maybe a minute tops. And I'll just think about him and the sweetness of him and how cute he is to me. He has a mole below his eye, and I will think about that mole on his cheek. And I'll think about his beard and just the parts of him that I just really adore that make him him, his laugh. I'll think about what a hard worker he is and how much he provides for us. And so when I do that, my heart is softened to him, and all of a sudden it's like I can't wait for him to get home from work. And I feel a touch more in love with him because I sat and just daydreamed about him. And if you're feeling like, what in the world would that do for my marriage? I want you to stop for a second and imagine that your husband is sitting at his desk and he's daydreaming about you. He's not thinking about all the ways that you come up short. He's sitting there thinking about your laugh and how funny you are and how much you make him feel comfortable or how cute he finds you. You're telling me that that wouldn't impact your marriage? That him walking through the house or walking through the door into the house and seeing you, that he's not going to feel more connected to you because he sat for a little bit that day and just thought about what a blessing you are in his life? I know it would for me. And then if I found out that my husband had been daydreaming about me at work, oh my gosh, that would just be the best feeling to think he took time out of his day to stop and think about me. And I know when you flip roles, there's no way that you can say that wouldn't be good for your marriage if your husband was sitting at his desk daydreaming about you. So I challenge you to really try that. Find a time. Maybe it's always when you make lunch. As you're making lunch, you're just sitting there thinking about him. Okay, the next one is to gush about him to your kids. And do it genuinely. All right, we don't want to, our kids can tell when we're kind of blowing smoke. So do it genuinely. And let me think of an example. So with Brooks, my son who's 3, sometimes he'll be sad that dad has to go to work. And I will sit with him and I'll just say, you know, buddy, your dad is such a hard worker and he works every day so that you and I can play together. Isn't that so kind of him? That totally does it for Brooks. He'll just be, oh, yeah, he is so nice, or he is the best. And that's it. That's all I had to do was just take it and flip it. And then like talk about, isn't he blank? Isn't he amazing? Isn't he funny? Isn't he so sweet? And all of a sudden, it's like my son can feel that connection. And pretty soon, it's like the 3 of us are best friends, right? Because he can feel this connection between all 3 of us. And he knows that mom and dad are stable, which studies have shown that is huge for a kid's self-esteem and feelings of security in life, are knowing that mom and dad are well connected. The next one, a lot of the world is not gonna love, mainly because I think that there's good parts to feminism, of course, but there's also very selfish parts, okay? And so if you notice a knee-jerk reaction here, like poles of a magnet kind of repelling against each other, where you go, no, I'm not doing that. Or why should I have to do that? I really want you to pray about that. I really, really want you to pray about it and think about it, okay? So try thanking him for everything. I mean it. I want you to thank him genuinely. Again, we're not being condescending here. We're not just throwing thank yous at the wall to see what sticks. I want you to try and find a time when he does something. So maybe Grant would like set the coffee maker to go off the next morning, right? We don't really have somebody who's in charge of that. It's just, you know, I tend to do it, but if he sees it, he does it, whatever. When I notice he said that and I don't have to, just take the time to acknowledge it and just say, hey, thank you for setting the coffee pot. Or if he goes and grabs me something, or if he takes the garbage out, or if he hauls the recycling, or if he moves the laundry over, or if he handles something with Brooks or Blake, even if it's like changing Blake's diaper. We're both her parent. Blake is my daughter, by the way. I don't know if you know that. But yeah, even if he changes like the baby's diaper, yeah, we're both her parent. We could both do it. But you know what? How good would it feel to know that you're acknowledged? If you were at work and your boss was walking by and would stop and just say, hey, thank you for doing whatever, and it's completely in your job title, does that still not soften your heart and boost your morale to be like, yeah, I want to make sure I'm doing a good job here because my boss notices those things? Then you'll also notice that your kids will hear you guys thanking each other, and that becomes part of their normal language too, to say thank you. And I can attest to that. Brooks is fantastic at saying thank you. And I know that's just because he's heard a language at home of saying thank you. And I noticed Grant says thank you back and forth. And we probably say it almost on the line of too much, and it doesn't come across disingenuous at all. It's just part of our language. And it does feel really good to have people acknowledge what you're doing. So build each other up. Number 4 is pray for him. Now, this is probably one you're going to assume was on the list maybe, but I do think that praying for your spouse is one of the most loving things you can do for them, because you see them. There's an expression that says that when you get married, your spouse is your mirror and will show you kind of your worst sides of yourself. It'll show you how insensitive you are or how impatient. It'll show you how selfish you can be. And so you're going to see parts of your spouse that are fantastic, and also parts of your spouse that they are not thrilled to have, right? And that they don't really want to share with other people. And so you can pray for them and thank the Lord for the good things and ask for encouragement for them. But then you can also pray that he would, restore past hurts and relationships, or that he would, transform a habit or a sin and turn it into something for his glory. You can also just pray for comfort for him and for wisdom. There's lots of different areas. I'm going to link a book down below that's called The Power of a Praying Wife. They have obviously all different ones, husbands, moms. They're fantastic books. They have little pocket ones that are just the prayer. Those I want to say are like $6-ish. And then they have a more extended book that's going to have the prayer in it, but then it's like a chapter on the topic. So if you're praying for his financial decisions, it's going to have a whole chapter on that, and you can read all about it and learn about how you should be praying for him and why it's important. And then it'll end with a prayer. So I'll link both, just the little pocket one and then the extended version, which I think runs around $10. So they're both great. I have both of them, love them both. One other thing I'll note with that, praying for him, is set a timer. When I know Grant's in a really stressful season, I'll try and pray for him at 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. every day while he's at work. And then otherwise, I'll just try and stack it with something else. So it could be every time I nurse Blake, I'm going to pray for him quick, or it could be just when I make lunches, like I said before. There's like an anchor in your day, something you're going to do almost every day. Then you could stack it with that. The next one I think is one of the harder ones, and this is to learn contentment in your life. I can't say that I'm the best at this by any means. I'm sure most of us wives struggle in some area or another with feeling content with what you have. Even if it's just, the big ones obviously are people will feel discontent with their car, they'll feel discontent with their home, discontent with maybe like just their stuff in general, like their wardrobe or other kind of materialistic things. And they matter, right? They matter. I'm not saying that they're stupid and a waste of your time. But let's just go with the car, okay? If you're gonna try learning contentment with your car, and a great way to start with that would be to just decide to find all the things you love about your car, right? Your car gets you where it needs to go. It's safe for your children within reason, right? And then, like I'm saying, there could always be a safer car. So if you feel like your car, you want a Suburban because those are much safer to drive your kid around in. I try not to talk about splitting hairs on here, but every once in a while, I feel like it's relevant. So just find ways to be grateful for your car. The heater runs, it can keep you warm in the winter. Things like that. Find ways to be grateful for what you have, because you're trying to make that more of the habit, because that makes you content. If you can think about the things you love, it can make you really content. I did that with my house and was just like, Lord, I just want to love my house. And he answered that prayer completely. He helped me see things I hadn't seen before, features of it that I was completely taking for granted. And I just think what a blessing that was, because all of a sudden this thing that was kind of on the back of my mind, which was, I feel a little crammed here. My house is great. I just feel crammed. I could use just a touch more space. The Lord, over the summer, I noticed a complete transformation in that area because I asked him to help me with it. Asked him for wisdom, and the Bible's very clear on that if you ask for wisdom, he'll give it to you. And so ask him, how can I be wise with what I have here? And be grateful for it. And then you'll notice that translates into the way you spend your money and the way you interact with your husband. You'll be able to talk about, I love this, or, I've really been enjoying sitting by this window, or I've really been enjoying, this spot in our house more. And then you'll encourage your husband to sit with you. And you'll notice that he'll start to feel that as well, that joy in what you have. The next one I'm not going to spend a ton of time on. Number 6 is don't gossip about him. Very straightforward. It's a horrible habit that so many wives have. There is a huge difference between emasculating your husband and making fun of him and being mean and just being funny, okay? And if you feel like you struggle with that line, sit with your husband. Bring up some topics that you've joked about in the past and see if he likes it or not. He might not want to call you out in the moment, or it just might be a norm in your marriage to joke about that stuff. But really take a step back and say, does this build my husband up? If you heard your own parents joking about that, and maybe you did, how did it make you feel? Is that something that people in a happy bonded marriage are going to joke about? Just think about that for a little bit. You don't need to go to your girlfriends to talk about your husband, because most likely you're looking for validation in why your husband is goofing up, or you're wanting to just pick him apart, and neither are good, right? Neither are good. Number 7 is trust his leadership and tell him that you trust his leadership. This is one that I don't feel like the world really loves right now. It is not trendy to submit to your husband, and so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this one either, mainly because I think it should have its whole own video, because the words are so twisted. And so I'll just want to remind you that it is a really wonderful thing to treat your husband as the head of the household, that submission is not oppression. Okay, submission is a voluntary thing that you're doing. You're saying, I trust you, and oppression is taking away someone's rights and their voice. Okay, so when you're submitting to your husband, you're not becoming this mute slave in his home. That could not be farther from the truth. Your husband's still going to take your opinions into account. You guys are still going to, go back and forth, but then you're going to trust that he can take all of these things into account and make a decision on something. Yeah. And it's a really, really wonderful thing. And I love talking to Grant about things and then being able to tell him that I trust you. Whatever you think, honey, I trust you. Because I want him to also know that his wife thinks he's so capable and that he is so smart. So even something as small as I would love a hot tub. It's the silliest thing, I'm sure, to most people. But I love the water, and I love swimming and tubing and skiing and just everything involving water. And so I would love a hot tub. And so I just told him I would love one. I just ask that you pray about it for maybe 6 months. And then whatever decision you come to on that, I'm going to be fine. So if you come to me and say, now's not the best time, just location-wise, where we'd put it, I want to do a few more things to our yard first so that we have a firm place to put one. He's taking into account how much I want one. So he wants to have one because he knows that I would love it and take good care of it, and that we would get so much enjoyment out of it. That's not lost on him. It's more I'm leaving up, is this the right time for it? Up to him. And then when we do get a hot tub, I know it's going to be even more joyful because there was no contention or pressure between the two of us to get one. It was like we were so solid and on the same page. And then how much more do you enjoy something, right? And that was that very, very kind of silly moment to just say, hey, I trust you and it's all good. I know you're going to make a wise decision and take everything into account. So if all of these habits I've talked about were new to you, I would encourage you to try 1 or 2 for maybe a month, and then keep adding on as you do that. And just take note. In a year, I don't even want to tell you after that month to see how things are going. Don't. I would wait a year. And in a year, just see the status of your marriage, right? There's so many things that are going to impact that. But behind the scenes, you doing those 7 habits on a really, really routine basis, that is going to uplift your husband, and he doesn't even really know about it. he might start to pick up on it, and you might be shocked at how your heart is transformed around him in a way where you just adore him even more. I pray, though, that these different habits would bless your marriage the same way they bless mine. Please like this video and subscribe so that you don't miss any new ones that I put out. And if you have a video topic you'd like me to talk about, please drop it in the comments down below. Not only does that help me think of new things to talk about, but it's also really great for the YouTube algorithm, and it'll push this video out to other wives who maybe need to uplift their husband. So thank you so much for taking the time to do those things. I pray that you have the best week. Thank you so much. Bye.